little bit about them.
Well, my mother taught me to do quilting when I was quite small. And then she pieced a lot of quilts that she never got quilted, so I have been finishing up the quilting. We'll start with the purple quilt, and that has a crazy name. It's called Crazy Ann. But I have learned to like it very much.
It's beautiful.
The quilt on the dresser is called the Double Wedding Ring. That incorporates many of the beautiful old prints that we don't get to see anymore. There were so many pretty patterns in the old cotton prints, and it does show off the quilting quite well, I think.
I noticed, Grace, that your quilting is as beautiful as the color work. It's perfect work for you quilters out there.
Now, my mother pieced both of those quilts and many of the others too, and then I did the quilting on them. Now, the yellow quilt is called the Improved 9-Patch. I guess we all learned to piece quilts with the common old 9-patch, but as you see, that has a little added pattern to it, and it's called the Improved 9-Patch. Mother also pieced that quilt. And now the pink quilt is one of my last quilting jobs, and I did the piecing on that, and it is for my great-granddaughter. She is taking quite an interest in her rooms and chose her colors of pink and black and white because she loves flamingos. So I promised her that I would make a quilt for her bed since she's interested in her room now.
What a wonderful gift.
And that was just finished just a few weeks ago. Now, the next one to it is the purple embroidered quilt. The first quilt I made really, and that, believe it or not, was done about 1922. How old does that make it? About 70 years old already. My mother embroidered one at the same time using the pink in the place of the purple. Now this next one to it doesn't have a name, but it has a number, but I gave it a name because to me I could see the boxes and the stars, so I called that the Box and Star quilt. And it has many, many pieces. I didn't count the pieces when I made them. I think there's 6,000 pieces in this quilt. The next one here is a very common, I guess it's the Irish chain or something like that. There are many variations of the Irish chain. But my mother loved pink. She pieced this quilt. So she put a lot of pink in all of her quilts. The one that we're sitting on here is one that Mother and I pieced each of this flower garden quilt. We made one difference. I put a path around my flower beds, this little green path, and so this quilt is called the Path to the Flower Garden. So I'm very happy to be able to have quilted stitches over my mother's piecing in many of these quilts. I'm still planning to do some more piecing and quilting. My next is for the brother of the little girl that has the flamingo colored quilt, and his will be pieced in blocks, building blocks.
Did he choose his colors as well?
Yes, he did. He's going to have black and red and white.
Oh, that'll be beautiful.
For a boy's room.
Very appropriate. Well, there are a lot of memories of your mother in this room, aren't there?
So many. Yes, I enjoy that.
Thank you for sharing them with us.
You're so welcome.
I'm primarily a china painter, and you do wonderful work. I'm very interested in this cabinet where you store your supplies. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yes, I'm very proud of this because it's a treasure from a friend. An old dentist that was in this town about in the very early 1900s that my mother went to his office for her work, and I too, as a little child, not needing much. But I went to take his pictures when he was 80 years old, and I thought he was old then. But he said, Grace, I want to show you my dental cabinet. So he took me to his back room and showed me this, and I said, Doctor, I would just love to have this cabinet when you're done with it. And he said, Grace, there isn't anyone I'd rather have than for you to have it. So his widow remembered when he was gone, and I got this cabinet. So not only the cabinet, but the tools too that he worked with. And so I'm well prepared if you need any work
I was
done.
just going to say, you know, if the china painting doesn't pan out, you could always go to dentistry.
That's right. But I really put it to good use because it does take care of my china paints that come in powder form, and then I have to mix them with oil when I use them. So I have really used this cabinet to great advantage.
I would think there's some skill involved in mixing up the paints.
Well, that's true. That's one of the first things you get, your first lesson when you have china painting.
The right
And then
consistency.
when we have the pieces painted, we have to secure that paint by putting them into a kiln that is heated up to 1800 degrees or so. I put them in this kiln, and this is fireproof brick, of course, and it has an automatic shut-off. So I can turn it on and then go about my work some more, and it will click and turn off when it's finished.
So you're able to take care of the complete process here?
Yes,
You do-
I am.
You do your own casting?
I do some casting. Now, I don't cast for everything, but this is my supply cabinet for what we call the blanks, dishes that will be painted, china painted. But I do cast a lot of pieces even for china painting because I glaze them and then they are the same as china. I'll show you how I do my casting if you'd be interested.
Oh, very interested.
Well, I have molds, and this is what a mold looks like. It comes up in two pieces, opens up in two pieces, so that when it is closed, it must be tightly fastened together. I better take this out right now. It's fastened together with a tight band, and then it can be set up so that I can pour the slip, we call it, the liquid clay is poured into the mold, and you leave it into this plaster cast mold for about 2 minutes for some pieces, or for less than that, until it forms a little wall on the inside of this mold, as thick as you want it to be, which is about like a nickel. And then, when it has set that long, I turn it over a bucket and drain out all of that liquid clay that has been poured into that. And then I let it set for, about an hour until it's set up enough to be firm, until it will release when I take the mold, and I don't force it, but I just gently lift it to see if it's secure enough to lift off of its own weight. Then I open the kiln, and I will find, in this case, a little bell in here. So then I can lift this bell out. It's very soft, so gingerly I take it out and lay it on the counter and close my mold and tighten the band on it and set it aside. Now, when this has dried completely, I have to take off all the rough edges. There's some rough edges around here where the mold went together.
We had a seam going through
A
it.
seam edge is right. And then I take a damp sponge and smooth that all away. Then I set it aside until it is completely dry. Then I take it to the kiln, and I have to leave it in there for, depending on the kind of material, for about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. It takes it in that intense heat And then it takes that much longer for it to cool off before I can open the kiln, which is really a joy, like opening Christmas presents. And then those things have to be glazed, and my bell will look something like this. I decorate it with colors or with enamel or write on it little messages that I might have. This is something I give to all of my children on Christmas, and I change the pattern each year. China. I do have all of this china setting up here that has been hand painted, all of those pieces.
And they are beautiful.
I believe you thought some of them looked antique.
I thought they were antiques when I came in. The technique is perfect.
I have some on each side of the cabinet. I decorate my room in my china. That's about all that I have on my walls, and every place is my china.
I think it's plenty.
I'd like to take you into the dining room. This dining room is my workspace for decorating. I do all my work right here at this table. I put a different covering on the table. But I have some of my china painting supplies right here in this cabinet. And I have my palette here where I've mixed my paints.
And they stay moist?
They stay for a long, long time if you keep them closed up away from the dust. And then I have my brushes in here too, and my oils go in another drawer. Some of my finished pieces too. I'll open up this cabinet. This is an old cabinet that we have had in our family for very many years. Do you see anything in there that you would especially like to see?
Well, I'm always drawn to lavender. I love the violets on this picture. This is a lovely piece.
That color seems to attract most people's attention.
Yeah.
Most often they choose that.
Well, I wasn't at all original then, was I?
That's right.
They're all beautiful.
I'm interested in the painting technique for the roses in particular, because those are the pieces that really do look antique to me.
All right. Do you see one there that you would like? All right.
I'd like to know how you achieve that.
All right. If I would want to take this, I would choose the blank, and I would cover it with, first of all, I must draw the pattern of this rose on here. Choose the position of it and everything. And then I would, with my oil and my paint, I would cover the rose, first of all with color. And then I would put a background of another color around this rose. Surround it, we call it the background. And I would go all around it like this. And then it just looks flat, of course, you know. So the next thing I have to do is to use a nice flat brush with a sharp edge. And I will determine where I want these petals to fall. And so I will strike a line across it. We call this cutting a rose. You strike a line across where you want the petals to be, and then you gently pull in the light and shape your rose all the way around. That may be all I'll get done that day. It's all that I should do. I will fire it in the kiln. Then the next day I'll come back and put in my leaves. And then I will deepen the center of the rose with deep color like that.
Do you need to fire between each layer of paint?
Yes,
Each color?
yes. And sometimes your plates need to have at least 3 firings.
Takes a lot of patience to do this.
It does. But it's great to achieve something different each time you pick up your plate. And the nice part about it is, if you think you're finished with it and you hang it on the wall, you can go back years later and add some more to it after you have learned another detail to put on it.
An artist is never really satisfied.
That's true.
You
That
always
is
do
true.
something.
That's true.
We'll be back with Grace Sigo after this break.
At Noblesville Oak, you can get lost in their huge selection of tables and chairs. We're talking heirloom quality, built-to-last furniture. You'll find recliners, glider rockers, bedroom suites, and roll-top desks. Maybe an entertainment center is in your future. Or how about hutches, globes, end tables, or maybe a beautiful armoire. Even if it's a mirror or couch you desire, you'll want to hurry to Noblesville Oak. Delivery and setup is offered, and don't forget the monster selection of dining room tables and chairs in stock. Shop Noblesville Oak on the square in downtown Noblesville. They're open 7 days a week.
Yancey's Apparel for men and women in Noblesville has extended their holiday shopping hours. Shop now at Yancey's and save 20 to 30% store-wide on most items. Other specials include a select group of men's sweaters at $26.99, as well as an exclusive selection of ladies' sweaters at $23.99 to $29.99. And ladies, check out our inventory of sequin sweaters and jumpsuits for all your holiday festivities. Also, ladies, remember when you're shopping for the perfect gift for him, Yancey's has what he wants to wear with a layaway plan to suit your budget. That's Yancey's on the square in Noblesville.
Hi, this is Gary Anderson from Gary Anderson Maytag. We're at 160 North 10th Street. That's 2 blocks north of Highway 32 on Allisonville Road. We're now having a special sale on all new Maytag and rebuilt appliances. Remember, we fix the appliances that break, sell you ones that don't, because we have service on all kitchen appliances. We are open from 8 in the morning till 7 in the evening every day, Monday through Friday, 10 to 5 on Saturdays. We have free delivery. We'll haul away your old appliances for free. Remember, we do want your business. We will appreciate you. Thank you very much.
For a limited time only, receive a free $75 savings bond on selected extra-large washers.
Hi, I'm Gary DeBoer of Don Hines Ford. I've been selling cars and trucks now for 24 years. Most of the time it's been with Don Hines Ford of Noblesville and Fishers. Now is a great time to buy a new or used car or truck. We have many new models this year for 1993. The Ford Probe has been completely changed. Also, the Ranger has been totally changed for 1993. For 1993, the new T-Bird had been lowered over $4,000 from what it was in 1992 with the exact same options. We have a very good selection of new 92 models left over. Also, we have some 92 Ford program cars and trucks. Many people have taken advantage of our red carpet lease, which in some cases, you can lease a car for as low as a 0.5% interest rate factor, which will save you thousands. I strive to give my customer not only a great price, but also great service after the sale. Repeat business and referrals is the main thing that I strive for.
Cloth on the inside and made the flowers by hand. The little birds are poured into a mold, but the flowers are made by hand. And I did mention that I have done a lot of globes for lamps, but the one there is done from the very beginning. I didn't have to replace anything because I had a new blank lamp that I could work with.
So you made the top and the bottom?
Yes, yes, Oh, I have a piece here that I think is very interesting too. This is a piece of ceramic, a plain pot that is poured rather heavy because I'm going to carve it, so it must be thick enough that it will stand to be cut out. So before it dries completely, I have to work while it's pliable. I, again, mark my pattern taken from a wood carving pattern or leather carving patterns like that are suitable for this. And then I started immediately with a sharp knife or most any tool. Some of the dental tools come in all handy for this, where I can dig out all around that pattern and carve it just like you would leather carving.
So this differs from the gold pot. You lifted on the gold pot, this one you cut out?
That's right. And so then I had to work very fast with this. It takes a long time. But I worked as long as I could, then I'd have to go to work in the daytime. I was working in the store, penny store at the time. I made my first one. Then I would put it in the refrigerator while I was gone so it wouldn't dry out. I'd put it in a plastic bag, or I'd put a damp towel on the inside of it, anything to keep it damp enough that I could come back and work at night then with it again. So it took me 2 or 3 days to do this.
When did you begin doing the ceramics and the porcelain and china painting?
I started the ceramic works in 1962, and then I didn't start the china, or the china painting until about 1970, something like that.
What inspired you to begin?
My husband gave me a piece of ceramic for Christmas that came from a ceramic shop just outside of town. And I said, I would like to go and see where these pieces came from. And so I went out and I was so intrigued by her shop and her work. I said, may I take one lesson, Roy? I want to take one lesson to see if I would like to follow this. It took only one lesson to interest me, and that to want to pursue this.
You were hooked.
Now, here is some more of the pen work. Now, this is mostly all pen work. And then, after that, I put in the color to make it more dense in the places where it needed to be.
Oh, these are beautiful.
These are little porcelain pieces that I have cast in the mold and just left them as they are. Porcelain bisque is sometimes demanded just plain like that, you know. This little doll I made with muslin. It's the eyelet embroidery, really. It doesn't show up too much, but that's what it's made out of. And this piece here is a piece of ceramic ware, too. And then it's decoupaged. That's something else that was done in ceramics a lot, the decoupaging. And so I used the gold, and I also used the ceramic paints, and a lot of different techniques on that. Then this little thing here is something that's quite interesting. It's made of porcelain clay, and it really stays, and it's decorated with enamel and china paints. Now you see, this is the china paints, just like I use on the glazed china. But you see the difference? It's a soft, a very soft decoration. Now I think we'll go to the lamp. Would you like to know something more about that?
I certainly would.
This is made on a plain pot too of ceramic. Then it's built up with clay that is not very thick to start with. I started on the mountains. Where are the mountains? Over on this side?
There they are.
There they are. I started with the mountains and dipped my finger in clay and built these mountains up in the slip. And then I took a little heavier slip and added it down here at the bottom, and I put my thumb in it then and made rocks all around. Here are some big rocks here. And then I took some clay and made a path along there that went back to the mountains. And then I needed a pagoda. I'll turn that around this way. I built a little pagoda here on this side. I put a piece of clay on there. Then I went to dinner while it settled down. Then I came back and took my knife and carved this little pagoda out in shape. Next I had to fix a Ming tree. So I took a piece of clay and a needlepoint tool and cut off a little tiny slab of clay and put it against the pot where I wanted to. I had drawn my pattern on before I started. And each time I would come back and put a little tiny piece of clay and build up the base of that tree, and I pushed some clay through a tea strainer and dipped it in the slip and put it on here to build up the leaf section. Then I had to let it dry for about 3 or 4 days because it has a lot of thick clay on it, you know. And I let that dry then for a while before it was fired. After it was fired, I painted it with stains.
And that's what gives it that antique
That's
effect.
right.
Again, you could have fooled me. I would have believed that to be an antique.
Yes. All right. Now, my brother-in-law made a cabinet for my paintings here. So I don't know if you see anything in there that you especially are interested in. Oh, this piece here I'll show you. Was taken from a Christmas card. And my niece brought this card to me that she liked so well and said, Aunt Grace, do you think you could put this on the plate for me? I said, I'll try. And then I liked it so well I had to do one for myself. Then another little interesting thing is this little Indian, I think. I haven't done very many portraits, just a few, but it was fun to do this little Indian girl.
I like the egg with the bird.
Yes. Now that's porcelain bisque too. And so many people choose that little egg with the little baby birds on it. You see?
That's lovely.
Yes.
Now, I'm guessing this is the technique where you dip the fabric in.
That is right. This doll had, part of it was poured in the mold, the hands and the head. But after this was put together, then I took the cloth and again, as I described before, I had to cover it with slip. And then I cut it out just like a dress pattern. And I put it around the base of that doll and fastened it. Each piece was fastened with the slip to hold that muslin where it belonged, you know. Then it was fired. After it was fired, I could actually lift that doll by the head safely. And then it had to be glazed, and we sprayed the glaze onto that doll. We could turn her upside down and spray her inside and outside. And so she's very substantial now. Only, you see that lace in there. The tiny little threads are porcelain. And if someone would say, is that lace real? And go up to it and touch it, it would break the threads.
Very
and break
fragile.
the beauty. Now my husband made the little cage for her so she would be protected.
Can we show the back of her dress?
Oh yes, I do want you to see the back of the dress too. And the little flowers that are on the dress are made by hand.
Beautiful.
Oh,
What an elegant lady.
and now these little boxes, I did want to show you those too. These are porcelain boxes. The little birds and the bells are poured in a mold and placed on here, but the little nest is little pieces that I rolled out and put in there, and the little roses are shaped by my fingers and put on there. Then after it's fired, it's decorated with enamel. So I decorated a lot of different little boxes that are enjoyed by a lot of people.
There's a tremendous amount of work in this little thing.
Yes, I'll agree. Just rolling that little nest out. Yes. Now, oh yes, I do have a piece I want to show you that is textured. And that's this piece right here. Here again, I'm using that same picture mold that we saw.
Very?
Yes.
Very versatile.
Now see, this is all porcelain, and this is done with the ceramic water-based paints before it's fired. But I textured just this much of it with a netting that I had to put porcelain on top of the netting and leave it for just seconds, and then pull it off at the right time, and leaves the print of the net. And then I painted with the watercolor paints on a different pattern on either side, and then fired the whole thing together. That's the first and only firing that had. Come back and did decorate it with enamel or two.
I think so much of your work is timing. Besides your talent, there's
Yes.
the timing and experience,
Yes.
knowing when to stop and when to take it out of the mold,
You're right.
when it's
You're
thick
right.
enough.
That's
I believe
right.
mine would have holes in it.
Yes. All right.
Well, Grace,
Thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful things, your talent and your time, your
Well,
beautiful home.
this
It's
has
been a
been-
great pleasure for me.
Well, this has been a privilege. I enjoy doing this. And I enjoy the friendship with people that come into my home each day.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
You needed a belt to fix your dryer. Did you stop at one of those so-called superstores? If you did, I'll bet you waited, and waited, probably at the back of the line. Hey, let's be real. Those guys are only interested in selling you a new dryer, not a $10 belt. I'll bet you waited, and waited.
Home, Sanders Glen Retirement Community, Huntington Bank, Meredith Bail Bonds, Hamilton County Senior Services, and Westfield Pharmacy.
Welcome to Seniors Today. I'm Sandy Stewart from Hamilton County Senior Services. We've got a new episode of Maturity Focus today, and Grace Sigo from Arcadia will be sharing her collection of antique needlework. Stay tuned.
When Irish eyes are smiling, surely all will smile at you. For it's down at the old Jim Dandy's where we have some great new specials for you. This month we have our perch sandwich and fries special. Tasty perch lightly breaded on a grilled bun with tartar sauce served with French fries for only $2.99. Also our perch dinner, tasty perch lightly breaded with tartar sauce and lemon served with your choice of potatoes, Texas toast, and coleslaw for only $4.49. And to celebrate St. Patrick's Day all month long, we're serving our pot of gold
Now,
sandwich.
and she's here with us today to share her collection of antique needlework. Grace, thanks so much for coming and being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Do you mind telling us what year this was taken?
This was taken in 1906.
1906.
Right.
And you were a beautiful baby.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you. My mother thought I was.
I'm sure she did. Tell me about this beautiful dress you're wearing.
My sister was about 20 years older than I, and so when she was, they were expecting me, why she helped to prepare. And she made this baby dress for me. And as you can see, it is trimmed with a wide border of extra nice drawn work, is called. It is already on the little yoke up there, and it has taken her quite a long time to do that, I'm sure. And as years pass by, I just appreciated so much knowing that my sister would take the time to put that much work into a little baby dress for me. And not only that, we had to have a face cloth to put over my face. Then, you know, I couldn't take a ride out in the carriage with the wind blowing on my face. That's bad for babies. The wind takes their breath away, so you had to have something to cover over their face. So she made a nice square about like that and put that drawn work all around that. So that was a lot more extra work. I always appreciated her, and more as the years go by, for what she did for me.
Was that a standard part of a baby's
Indeed
layette
it
at the
was.
time, a face cloth?
Indeed it was.
And had to match, of course, the outfit.
Well, that depended on, you know, if you were in a hurry, you could just snatch up a cloth of some sort and put over. But if you were going to church, you wanted your baby to look its best.
Because you'd be in an open carriage.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the needlework technique that you
Yes.
touched on briefly there.
As I began to wonder about this needlework, it's nice, how it was accomplished, I began to look into magazines and wonder if I could duplicate that somehow or other. So I found out that I would have to draw threads, therefore it's called drawn work. And the first step is to draw out threads in one direction as wide as you want the piece to be. Now it looks to me like this must be about the width of that material in the skirt, and I have a piece here that looks like it's about the same pattern that she used. And after the threads are drawn out, you start to gather up a few with your needle on either side, and make it stationary, and then you begin in the middle to gather a few threads on either side, as you can see, and make them stationary. And then you can start in the middle and gather a few threads together, a few more together like that, and then you can make quite a pattern as you go along. I have a lot of different patterns. As you can see, right here is quite a nice wide border. And I think I will show you several different pieces so you can tell how many different things you could make. This piece here, a big scarf that has shown a lot of wear, poor thing. I don't know how old this might be, but I want you to see how many different stitches are in this
what a beautiful piece.
with all the wide border, and then come back and do the patterns in the corners.
And this all started just as a group of threads.
Every piece must be started like that, to pull out the threads and then work back again with another thread.
And it takes hardly any time at all, I would imagine.
Well, you think that it surely does take a lot of time. Now here is another piece. Here's a pair of pillowcases that was given to me by Elsie Fahrenkamp. She lives here in town, and this was her mother's pillowcases, and she gave them to me when she knew that I was collecting this type of wear. And here is another scarf, and that has been filled out in the little corners, many different stitches.
Not as intricate as this, but it's a striking pattern, isn't it?
Yes, yes it is. Now, I have made a sampler, I guess you would call it. I see here that I have started out with just making a little border of all kinds of different patterns as I went along to see what I could do.
And this was a learning process.
Yes, this was a learning process. And my needles are still in there from my work, and here's the print of the hoops that this was in to work on. So I was kind of charmed by it when I saw it once again. I'd sort of forgotten about doing this for several years and stashed it away for a while.
When did you do it?
Oh, and probably in the 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. And then we have, it can be done on heavier material and worked in with colored threads, if you would like that. And then if you are going to be a hostess, you might want a nice apron, and you could go to all of this work if you would like. And this would be
for
special.
Your apron. Yeah, it certainly would.
Entertaining special friends, I'm sure.
I don't think I'd want to stain that apron.
All right, we'll put that aside. Now, this was something that I was going to do. I intended to make an apron. So I used the same idea that we do in some of these corners. And I filled out the little squares here. And you see, I had to build my little frame here to do the needlework back and forth on that to complete these little medallions.
So you added the thread to this one.
That's right. I added the thread. Yes, I didn't take away any material. I just added the thread to that. Now, this piece, I would say, is about the ultimate of drawing work. And I don't know where this came from, really. See, I gathered these pieces up from sales, sometimes from yard sales, and some friends would give them to me, but I don't remember where I got this piece anymore. But will you look at...
It's amazing. It's like a spider web.
Yes, and think of it, such a little of the original piece, just these little spots of the original piece, except the few threads that are left. And then all of these are woven in with the new thread, woven in those.
And this was a solid piece of
That
cloth.
was a solid piece. And you know, I thought, well, if somebody else could do that, surely I could do that too. And would you know, I was foolish enough to attempt it.
That's the way I get in trouble all the time.
Now this is as far as I got with it, but I want you to see just how well I was coming along.
You were doing beautifully.
And someday I might want to do a little more on
Well,
it.
I want you to finish that and bring it back next week and show us.
That would be great if I could do that.
I see you've pulled out the threads to get your
Yes.
whole pattern in.
Yes, I have laid out the whole pattern just like that one. But I think if I do any more to it at all, I'll cut down the size a little bit.
I would do that. Make it a hanky instead of a...
Now I have some more pieces over here with this drawn work that I think are just beautiful. And these pieces were given to me, this one by my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, gave me this piece. Let's hold it up here so you can see what a pretty table cover it makes. And she gave it to me as a keepsake, but it was a wedding present that she had from on her wedding day. And I thought, oh, how could she part with that? But she wanted me to have it, and so I'm very thankful for it.
She knew it would be cherished.
Yes, that's exactly why she did it. And this piece is a very pretty thing. It has so much intricate work on it.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, that has a lot. So many of those little woven pieces, corners, like I attempted on my apron here. And this is almost the pattern on the little baby dress.
And this corner,
Yes, that's interesting.
that's very different from the rest of it.
Yes.
But it's the same technique.
Yes, it is. And then this pattern here, I think, is just really extra. It was given to me by a special friend, and here again, it was her wedding present. And now this had to be about in the late 1800s, 1880 some, I would say, when they were married. And so that's how old that is. And I really do cherish that a lot. It's a great piece. I think that's all.
Now, was this a common type of handiwork?
Oh, yes.
at
Yes,
the
it
time?
was.
Because I don't believe I've ever seen it. If I've seen it, I haven't recognized what it was.
I think maybe not after the 20s. Of course, I did this in the 30s or 40s.
You were a
but
maverick.
People were not doing it when I did it. It was a lost art then.
Well,
and so it really is an old art. Not many people want to take the time to do that, I guess.
Really?
But you know, you can understand that the way we have to work these days, spend time in earning our bread and butter.
Well, I know we have all these conveniences now. I know they didn't have microwave ovens in 1910,
No.
and yet they had all this time to do this.
Yes.
Tell me about the difference in the lifestyle that would make that possible then. And
We didn't have the entertainment, of course, outside of the home, nor the televisions, the radios inside at the time this was being done. So this was evening work. After you had worked hard out on the farm or factory work, if you were in town, this was evening work to relax. And ladies liked to get together and show what they could do. And there were magazines printed. I have some McCall needlework magazines at home from the 50s and 60s. So I was always anxious to see what new needlework was in that magazine that I might try to copy.
so this wasn't just done by ladies of leisure. It was done by ladies who worked all day, and this was their way of relaxing in the evening.
Yes, that's right.
What about these small pieces?
Oh, yes, I do have a number of small pieces here. Now, these I bought, and these are all trimmed with one certain style, and it's the little pinwheels that are made with a little frame. And I'm sure this frame was at one time more firm than it is now. But they made their own little background to do the weaving in the center of these little pinwheels, and used that as the trimming for the outside. But I want you to see how many different patterns are on the inside of these pieces. Each one has a different pattern on the inside. That's what makes it so interesting to me.
This looks like a set.
Yes, yes, I hadn't noticed that. I believe it is, right, And this little piece has one that has the little squares in the center, and that's called Hardinger embroidery. When you do those little, leave those little squares, the little tiny squares. Can you imagine leaving just that much cloth in there and stitching it to stay? And then these are still different. So I appreciate each one. And I think it would be kind of nice if I would use those on my cupboard shelves.
And put your beautiful china pieces
Yes.
on. If you've been watching the show along, you'll remember Grace is the very talented china painter from Arcadia who was with us in November. Well, shall we take a break and come back and look at some more of your collection?
I will be glad to show something else.
Okay.
We've been in Noblesville longer than any other bank, and when you come to the Huntington, you see the same people. We remember who you are, and we give you personal service. We love being the friendly bank.
We're the Huntington Bank, a caring bank. We were founded by P.W. Huntington 126 years ago. Plus, we're fully insured by the FDIC. We're a strong, secure, solid, and caring bank.
I think what makes the Huntington unique is that we give all of our customers a personal banker to help you with all of your financial needs.
Member FDIC.
Sanders Glen Apartments could be just the place for you or a loved one if you're 55 or better. Live independently in spacious 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. Sanders Glen is a friendly community offering transportation, 24-hour response, activities such as their craft room, common dining room, and full kitchens in the apartments. Enjoy your life. Keep your independence and your savings. Call Sanders Glen in Westfield for a free tour at 867-0212. Low rent, no buy-in fee, and friendly people at Sanders Glen. At Westfield Pharmacy, you'll find that a lot of things have changed over the years. Things like a convenient drive-through window, free prescription delivery, and 24-hour emergency prescription service. If a speedy recovery at home is just what the doctor ordered, let Westfield Pharmacy, a Convacare agency, help you follow your physician's instructions. See Rod Weller for medical equipment rental, setup, and maintenance, and Dave Weiss for pharmaceuticals. Westfield Pharmacy, the people who care.
We're back with Grace Sigo from Arcadia, and Grace is about to show us how Battenberg lace is made.
Yes, I do have several pieces collected, and it is a mystery just how it's made. One of the first pieces I might show you is this piece. It's a long scarf, but I'll just show you the one pattern here. It has incorporated some of the drawn work that we just looked at a few minutes ago in the center of this doily, and then the Battenberg on each side. Now this is the tape that's used, the Battenberg tape, and I'm going to show you how they had to start out to make that piece, and then we'll look at some of the other pieces in detail a little bit later. Now here is one of the patterns. It came all marked out nicely for you, and these patterns were about 15 cents. A big pattern like this would cost about 15 cents. Some of them 10 cents. This pattern is a little smaller, and it's already started for us. We take the Battenberg tape, as you see we have here, and lay it across the pattern and baste it there so it will stay. And then after it is basted on there, as this little piece is here, this one is completed, the basting, and then we take a thread and weave it in and out between those tapes to make a solid, well, not a solid pattern, but whatever kind of pattern you want to hold those tapes together. And after that is completed, you take the basting stitches out and you have a completed doily. Now, here again is one that is started, and this time they put it over a pad, a cotton pad, so that it would stand up a little better. And but they had to do the same thing, put the tape all around there, and then work their threads in between to hold the tape.
These are such intricate patterns.
Yes. Now here is a nice pattern of a handkerchief. Imagine working on that small handkerchief with this fine needle or linen material that they furnished there, and the thread they would furnish to go with it. All for the total here is about 80 cents. Gets to be rather expensive, doesn't it?
That's not counting your hourly wage in there, is it? When you
That's right, that's right. But that was all for fun, too, you know.
And this is from 1901.
1901, that's right. That's the pattern book that came out of it, 1901. So we have all the working material. Now, if you're ready to go to work on it, why, we'll just fold it up for a little bit.
Okay.
We'll look at some of these pieces. Now, you see this piece here has the braid that has just the threads, like a little fish net worked in between, very fine threads.
So delicate.
Yes, yes, very fine. And this a little bit more firm work here. So I appreciate the work very much. This is a long, long scarf, probably for a piano or for a library table. Could have been used. All right. Now I would like to show you a little bit of crocheted work. I never have done an awful lot of crochet work, but I have done some, and I wanted to show you this. I made this doily, and it was quite hard to do, or it took a lot of patience, especially this part of it, because it's kind of hard on the eyes, the tiny little stitches that are in it. We might lay it here so that we can see it a little better. And here is another closely crocheted piece that I thought was pretty too. It has that nice fine work in it.
Very fine.
Yes. Of course, if you want to relax, it's nice to crochet with yarn, and then you can really, like Afghans, you know.
That's
then
been
you
my
can,
experience.
Then you can really rest with that.
I don't have the patience for this, I'm afraid.
Well, I used yarn for this, but I thought it was such an interesting thing that I wanted to see if I could achieve it. Now, you see, this is crocheted and finished crocheting double as you go. You pick up one color and go across, and pick up another color and come back. And when it's done, it's a nice heavy blanket for the little one.
They're bonded together.
By crocheting them right together as you go.
That's an amazing technique.
Yes, it is. And it took me quite a little while to get onto it, but I did accomplish it.
Well, who's the lucky baby?
Well, it hasn't arrived yet.
I'm still waiting.
That's an instance where you make the clothes first and then wait for a baby to come along for it.
This is the inspiration. I say it's worth coming for.
Yes, I think so too. Well, now, have you ever done any knitting?
I have.
Okay. This piece is knitted. This doily is knitted here. Now, when it comes to knitting with crochet thread, that's a little different, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yes. And
what an interesting technique.
Yes. I was looking at the magazines last night that I told you that I had, McCall's pattern books, old ones, and it had a lovely pattern in that book of knitted around. Now, here is lace for pillowcases. Now, straight knitting wouldn't be nearly so bad as to have to knit it circular, but it's still hard to knit with that fine thread, I should think.
I would think so.
And I do have a little tatting, too. Now, my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, gave me tatting for 2 scarf ends, maybe for a piano scarf or a library table scarf. But you know, I never used them. And now that's been back in 1924. They're kind of old too.
Well, there's no rush.
But I decided, just since I took these out, that they might be pretty for a shelf edge too. Don't you think they'd be nice on a shelf?
Your china cabinet?
So maybe you need, maybe the next time you come, I'll have it to show you how it looks. And then just this year for Christmas, a friend of mine tatted this little ornament for my Christmas tree, and I thought it was just darling.
That's a very good friend indeed.
Indeed she is, and she's a little older than I am, and quite often takes trips, bus tours with me, and she just tats, and she can just look out the window and go right ahead tatting. So
automatic pilot.
Yes, that's right. Now, are we finished with everything?
What did you? What about this?
Oh
piece?
yes,
Talk
this
about that
crocheting
beautiful.
here. Yes, this crocheted piece is quite an achievement, I think. This I use on a table, and it would have been used on a library table. I think that's what it was made for.
This woven technique is interesting.
Yes, it is.
Like pie crust.
Yes. Now I would like to show you a few little pieces of embroidery. This is the first piece of embroidery work I ever did, and I can remember sitting in my mother's, at the foot of my mother's ironing board in my little rocking chair and working so hard at it because Mother insisted that every stitch must be perfect, and if it wasn't, you know, I had to pull it out. And that I thought was a big job, but I did it anyhow. But I see that this is silk floss, and I think that was quite a chore to use silk floss.
Oh yeah. It's much harder to work with, I think.
Yes, and so I'm really amazed at how nicely it came out. Did I say I was only 5 years old when this was done?
5 years old. I see that on the note here.
Yes, I was 5 years old when I did this.
1911.
Yes. And so this piece I brought because so much of the embroidery work at one time was done with the satin stitch, and I thought this was such a good sample. It's done by doing a little darning stitch, padding this little area that you want to stick up, padding it good with darning stitches, and then you come back and put your thread over and over that, and then you have to keep your threads real straight with 6-thread floss, you know. Then you would have to keep it real straight to make that nice and flat. Let's just see how nice this big piece is. I appreciate it a lot.
Now, do you know who made this
No,
piece?
I don't know who made this. And then we would have to iron it with a pad under it, to put a towel or some heavy piece underneath of it to make the relief work stand up. And so this is a piece that I did do with the same type of stitch, a pair of pillowcases with the same type of stitch. And then my sister-in-law made this for me for a gift, and this came about 1924 also. They haven't been used too much. I have used them a little bit, but not too much. But this is kind of like the French knot, only it's made a little bit longer and woven around into roses.
They're beautiful.
And this is a touch of applique along with the embroidery. I think
That's lovely as well.
I believe that's all we have.
Is that everything? It looks like it is.
I believe it is.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for coming today. And since we first met in November, Grace has become both my friend and my teacher. So it's a great delight for me to have her here today to share this beautiful collection. Thanks so much.
I appreciate your calling me. Thank you so much for having me. And I enjoy you so much as my student for China painting.
Well, it's mutual.
She's doing good work, I will say that too.
For a beginner.
Yes, for a beginner. That's always to be considered. But we enjoy each other so much.
We do.
No matter what your age, there is usually some area of your life in which you need assistance. Older adults may